We're excited to introduce the comedic character category of the R Anime Awards. These characters brought laughter and joy to fans in the past year with hilarious humor in absurd situations. Get ready to see the most memorable and comedic characters that anime has to offer. Let the laughter begin. Here are your nominees for Best Comedic Character of 2022.
エレガントならアマネじゃん。イケメン独り占め罪許さんわ。こっちは岩ひっくり返してるのに何一人でドジっこしてるの。いにしえの少女漫画なの。おい、どこ見てんの。ビビったのか。お父さんも一緒に歌って。無理です絶対。でもごめんなさい、そんな嫌なのね。ラビリーが戻ったよ。マリアちゃん、ラビリー帰ってきた。ラビリー食べさせたのよ。まさかあの毛玉口お化け何がこんばキュキュちゃん。これはね、私がコスしたくて作ったの。そして女王様に認められ次の女王になることよ。そう、人間の子なんて私が女王になるための捨て駒。また頭が故障しておる。乗れ乗れ乗れ乗れ乗れ乗れ乗れ。これ私そびれちゃったな。何を私そびれたのですか。かぐやちゃん、なんかワクワクしてない。だって魔法の杖ですよ。私のさじ加減で変形するんですよ。フォークなのにさじ加減、フォークなのにさじ加減。そうだね。では一度何か出してみましょう。はい。
Your jury winner is Amauri Miruki. And the public chose Goto Hitori.
Joining me to talk about Best Comedic Character is Kevin Yaw. Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
I'm doing great. Kevin is he's been on the awards before. We're always happy to have him. Although whenever I see you, I get the temptation to Nya, and I think that's
No, please don't.
That's a bad thing you bring out in me. And also joining us is Naxi from the jury. Hello, Naxi.
Hello, how are you doing?
Looking at these rankings, they're pretty eclectic, aren't they?
They are very. I will point that out.
Kevin, looking at these rankings, is there anything that really stands out to you that you want to comment on? And, actually, this is a very interesting question that I always like to ask our guests. What is your personal ranking, and how does it kind of fit onto this ranking on either side?
Well, by your definition of what comedic character is, as in we're going for the best character,
That's correct.
I would say for me then it would be between Kaguya and of course Bochi, because just of how relatable they are. I did just watch the last 3 eps of Bochi just now, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. And Kaguya, the thing is about Kaguya, it's like I just watched the movie and it just builds on season 3 so well.
Ooh.
Whereas, yeah, it's just it's fresh in my memory. Season 3 Kaguya is, all about them learning to finally become, or quote unquote, go into a relationship, as most romance shows don't actually do. And then the movie goes beyond that and asks, what is a relationship essentially? So it's ingrained in me that I want to say Kaguya for me personally, but Bochi is definitely there as a super introvert at school, at home. You definitely have where that I don't want to say fake persona, but just a different persona when you're around people as when you're by yourself, because you're just more comfortable. And Bochi is definitely an introvert spirit animal, as I would say.
Yeah, they call it it's called code switching, where you have different versions of yourself for different contexts. So you're different at work as compared to your friends, as compared to ordering at a cafe. Yeah, it's really interesting how they are able to incorporate something so relatable. And I had the chance to see the Kaguya movie in theaters, but I didn't want to be alone on Valentine's Day watching that sappy movie. But did you watch it on Valentine's Day or the day after?
No, I watched. It came out like I think the 16th for me.
Oh, okay. You got to avoid the all the couples. Wait, did they give out any like merch or anything? Because if I missed out on
No,
like on a poster, I'd be so sad.
I
Okay.
don't think so. Not for
Did you
me.
know when Pancreas came out, they gave like tissue boxes so you could wipe your tears during the movie.
No.
But they were
The
like special Pancreas tissues. Anyway, hey Naxi, I've never heard of this jury winner. Like Kevin, have you seen
same. No.
Watcha Primagi? I mean,
I've never heard this in my life.
I mean the awards has a very long standing tradition of recognizing little girl shows. So Naxi, is this a little girl show, and why did she win?
So, Watch a Pre-Magi, to I guess sum it up, is a kids show. It's basically about like a group of idols, about five of them, who basically get like do performances along and have like there's like magic and stuff like that. Um, and their objective is basically to compete in this grand, like big idol festival to like get their wishes granted or something. And Maruki is one of those five main idols. She's a two-faced character. She when you first meet her, she appears sweet and innocent, and basically her personality and aesthetic is related to that fact. But as the show goes on, you learn that she's actually like selfish. She has like
Oh,
she's scheming and stuff like that.
that's one of my favorite character types.
Yeah, you hear like she has like internal monologue moments where it's like, oh, I say this, but I actually really want this to happen. And of course, like that's your first impression of her over the first few episodes. But as the show goes on and on, you realize that she's actually a lot more deeper character than you would think. Like there's a lot more nuance. You learn that she's insecure. She doesn't like taking risk, even though she's a very hard worker. She she has thoughts. She has doubts about herself and stuff like that. And it eventually, alongside the cast slowly turning her away from that kind of like scheming persona and like some really good character development. The themes and messages she espouses throughout Premagi are really hit home for a lot of jurors on the comedic character jury, and as such, I think we had long conversations about how like all the great things that we noticed about her throughout Premagi, and she was very much a favorite going into the voting.
When talking about this, I find there's an interesting thread we can pick on where whenever you're judging a character, right, it's really easy to split them into two categories. So there's dynamic characters that evolve and have character development and progress and change in some way over time, right? But then if you look at the comedic character category, oftentimes comedic characters don't necessarily change because it's not their job to change, right? So their job is to kind of be the same and play off of other characters using the kind of personality or the kind of traits that they've established for themselves, which is not, again, not a bad thing. A lot of people think it's a bad thing, but and that doesn't mean that there's not ways that you can show different parts of themselves that still match what they've been established as. But Kevin and Axie, I kind of want to pick at that a little bit. What do you think about the fact that the jury winner is a character that changes and the other characters might not necessarily change as much?
Well, for Wilson, it's not really like I think we talked a lot about this in the jury, but you like the characters that grow. We were more fond of characters that grew, like had like noticeable character developments that were more than just being like lighthearted, fun characters. That there was more depth to them. Maruki was like that. Carol is like that a lot. Kaguya is definitely a lot like that. But there's also characters where even if they don't have a lot of development, they're still they could still be really enjoyable to watch simply because they're very entertaining. Shamiko Yoshida Yuko is the perfect example of this on our list. Even though Shamiko does have some character development, it's not as like strong as say like Karo or Miruki, but she was still very entertaining to watch as a result. But a lot of jurors do agree that if it came to a character that was more like had a lot of growth, had a lot of like character development versus a character that was somewhat more simplistic, it would always be the one who has more like who's more dynamic, who grows more, who has more to them than just like a lighthearted approach.
How do you feel about that, Kevin?
I mean, I think that makes sense. Like the you had the jury had Bochi as like the second place, and then she grows, but like it's really subtle, like throughout the entire series. It's like really small things, like she she joins a band, makes some new friends, does interactions at her club, at her job, and then it's just like small things like that where to like the average person when they're maybe not into slice of life, they watch this and like, oh, nothing's really happening, quote unquote. But for people that who do enjoy these types of shows, like you can see the development there, even though it's like really really subtle and minimal. I would say like a character that also doesn't really develop or change that much would be like Anya Forger, even though she's like a bundle of chaos and I love her so much. And I mean, she's second on the public vote, which I can see why, because you just love any interaction she has with any of the other cast members. And to be honest, like Spy X Family for me was basically just the Anya show. I I didn't really care about what was happening over the overall plot. You just give me Anya in school or interacting with Lloyd or just anyone. But obviously, if we're picking best character, then dynamic characters would be Bochi, or obviously for me Kaguya.
Well, see, I don't necessarily agree with that because, like again, I think you brought up Anya, Waku Waku, Peanuts, Chichi, etc. She is kind of the perfect example of how I think this category is not just character who changes the most wins, right? You can be a great character and not have a dramatic arc that needs to be completed, right? And I
Of
mean that's
course.
exactly what this whole section is for. Um, in our little pre-session, you said that if you're looking at this list, you maybe would have chose Anya as the winner, and you were surprised it was so low in the jury ranking. Why exactly was that?
That was before I knew the definition of what definition by you're going by
Oh, okay.
comedic
So you thought
character.
she was like the funniest.
Yeah,
I mean, she's pretty funny.
she is really funny. But
uh,
yeah, she wouldn't be in my like top three, but she would still be there. Like I enjoy her as a character. She's a kid. Like what development are you gonna get as from a 5-year-old?
but
But
even regardless of that lack of development, she adds. Again, you said it's the Anya show. She is the show, and so I think that just speaks to the strength of her character and why she. I'm not surprised to see her high on the public side.
oh no, definitely not. But
N-
yeah, I don't know. Anya's just great.
I will also like to add on to the comments regarding Bochi that you made, Kevin. Bochi is like I honestly the jury one of the most highest points for us in regards to Bochi. Bochi the Rock does an incredible job of character animation with regards to Bochi as a character. Like the way like Bochi is presented and visually with like her freakouts and stuff like that is makes all of her comedic moments so much funnier. Like at least to the jury's mind, like all those like when she's just like spazzing out on the ground or something like that. That those moments like that really increased her humor and entertainment for the
I know, I definitely
character.
agree with the exaggerations that the show does about her. It's just like it taps into like almost like a core memory and asking you like, "Hey, remember this embarrassing thing you did like when you were in high school? Remember that? Wasn't that so so embarrassing?" And you're just internally cringing at yourself, and it's just
and
like,
then
"Ah, I was there. I was that person once."
and like a
Relatability.
and like a lot of the times she ends up looking like how you feel, like because obviously real life is you don't like spaz out in real life or crawl into a box, but um
You spaz out in your mind,
you spaz out in your
and then
mind,
she
and
just
that's
does it.
and then as we're looking at the winner picture here, she's just a little smudge. Like, it's so crazy how the visuals reinforce the character traits that we love so much. Now, Naxi, what speaking of the other characters in this list, can you talk a little bit about how maybe competitive it was a year, or how much trouble you guys had during discussion? Was it kind of easy to pick out who you wanted to be up at the top, or was it more hard?
Absolutely not. 2022 had a lot of really good characters, so it was very difficult picking out a lot of these 10 characters because there were just so many good characters. I think the phrase "this character is good, but I think this character is great" was used so many times in our jury. Um, like it was just a lot of really good characters. Like for instance, a lot of characters that got left out on this list, like characters from Do It Yourself. Your Forager was left out. We talked about her a lot. But like a lot of these characters that even if they didn't make it, that's no knock against them because the comedic character jury thought a lot of the characters from this year were really good. But yeah, it was very actually kind of difficult ranking some of these because a lot of them were just like it was just more like who do you find better? And it's just like yeah, but like it was another case of who do you like are these characters worse than others? It was more like no, it's like these characters are just like good, but there's others that are just better, and it was actually proved very difficult for some of these characters. If that makes sense.
No, of course, it makes a lot of sense.
I
You
think
know,
2022 had like so many, had a lot of good shows. To be fair, and then at the top end, it would be just be like, which character do you relate with the most? Who do you prefer? Who do you like the most? So yeah, it makes sense. Like the top, the top four for public is like I could see any of them winning. To be honest,
no, for sure, yeah. And then even the characters that are below the top four, I think it's just purely out of less.
just less people have seen it, including myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to make a comment that even though these like I guess the three biggest examples are Pre-Magi, Tropical Rouge, and Grappa Prechan. Even if those shows are more obscure, that's not a knock against any of the characters in it. Maruki obviously is really great because she was our top choice, but Laura and Maria were also really good characters as well, in our opinion. Laura had some really good character development in regards to her relation to the cast, and Maria was kind of very similar to Anya in a lot of regards, where even though she isn't like a character that gets developed a lot, she still provides a lot of great humorous moments throughout Preach-Chan. Um, and that's just the show being obscure is even if the show is obscure, there's still a lot of good characters in those shows.
And now taking a look at you mentioned it was a great year for anime, and again, the character category is so hard sometimes because, when you're looking at genre, you're looking at maybe like 20 shows, but characters, there's like hundreds of characters. How do you choose like which character out of a show deserves anything? Like, Kevin, you mentioned really liking Kaguya. Would you have chosen Kaguya over the other cast members, and why would that be?
Going by this definition, then yeah, I would go with Kaguya because obviously she's funny as well, but then I also think that she's the best character in the show, just overall. Like I see a lot of myself in Kaguya, and I think the way especially season 3, the way it's directed, the way you get to see Kaguya's inner mind and how it works, where sometimes she can be assumed in some ways and then really assertive in other ways. I think just gives her a way more complex motivation and dynamic to her. So yeah, I would say Kaguya would be my choice from the show.
I'm just trying to think about. Any other thing that you guys would like to talk about? Any kind of burning passion you need to say? Naxi, you always have something to say.
Now, I will say that with regards to picking characters out of a cast, it just basically comes down to which characters stood out. A lot of it comes down to simply which character stood out the most from the cast. Like a lot of the like Pre-Magi and like Bochi and Princess Connect, for instance, Karo, Bochi, and Maruki stood out the most to us because and those casts are and a lot of those shows have huge casts. But those three characters stood out to us the most from their respective shows. Um, it basically just comes to yeah, a lot of the time it just comes down to which character had the biggest like impact to you, which character was the most entertaining, which character was the most memorable, and out of like a big cast or something like that. And usually those are the characters you tend to focus on.
Well, speaking of that, why do you think the public chose to go for some characters in particular? So, like, say, like Power, right? So, Power is not really a main character. She's I mean, she is a side character. I was gonna say she's barely a side character. She's not barely a side character, but she's not what you think of when you think of Chainsaw Man. Or is she?
I imagine that power, with power, regards to power situation, I imagine it's all of her like crazy shenanigans and things that she says in the show and stuff like that were very memorable to people who watch Chainsaw Man. Like I'm sure a lot of people will remember the whole "I'm going to be Prime Minister of Japan and get a Nobel Prize" speech that Power did in the middle of one of the episodes, or like her jumping from off the tower and just smashing some monster in the face with a hammer. Like, like Power is indeed a side character, but she is a side character that I can see standing out. That I see a lot of people really like like I guess remember that leaves a good impression on a lot of people who see Chainsaw Man. And I definitely um, a lot of characters in Chainsaw Man I feel are, even if they're not as important as say Denji, they do stand out to a lot of viewers.
What are your thoughts,
To add
Kevin?
to that, I think power is like almost the levity in the show Chainsaw Man. Like obviously Denji has his, funny quirky moments with the other cast members, but power is like she's unabashedly just honest about anything and she just wants to see humans in pain, so she'll just laugh at anything that comes up because she just wants to see humans suffering. And I think there's like it's definitely if a character that wears their emotions in their sleeve like that is I think it's just really endearing to watch.
And
And I think
refreshing,
that's why,
right?
yeah, I think that's why a lot of people just like Power because like she's not even if she lies, you know that she's lying. Like you know that there's another motive, so she can't really lie in that sense.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. That was a lot of fun talking about all the characters from last year.
Thank you for having us.
No worries, it was good.
Yeah, you can catch Kevin Yaw at his YouTube channel. The brilliant return of Kevin Yaw.
Ah,
Speaking of
thank you.
characters, you can go see see more about Attack on Titan characters. I'll let you discover the video yourself. And again, we'll move on to the next category. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.